Chapter 8 is actually less intimidating than it may first appear. They introduce the participle here, which will be a learning curve. There will be stuff you have to learn, but they're giving you very easy, predictable forms here. It's mostly just a new concept to take on. So, they frame this as a new kind of verb, and I don't want you to think about it that way. I think that's wrong-ish. The participle, I want you to think about first and foremost as an adjective. It plays an adjectival role. Now, it's going to do more than that, but it's going to play fundamentally, I think that the base level, the participle acts as an adjective, which means it can be an attributive position, it can be substantive, it can be predicative, and it can do some other stuff. So, it is an adjective, but it is a verbal adjective. So what is it? It's an adjective, but the kind of adjective it is a verbal adjective. And what that means is that we're going to be using our verb stems to build it. So we have noun endings and verb endings we've learned so far. The verb endings, you learned o, ace, a, omen, use. And the noun endings, you learned as, u, etc. So, we've kept those worlds separate, and you should think of them as two separate things. But here they crash into each other, because here we have a verbal stem that we're going to attach noun endings to create a adjective, a verbal adjective, an adjective built out of a verb. Okay? So they're giving you here the present tense. Progressive is just another way of describing. Progressive is a different tense in English. We have present and progressive. Greek just has the one. We call that the present tense in Greek, but it corresponds to both our present and our progressive tense. The progressive is the is walking as opposed to walks, right? Our simple, present simple. So they're giving you the middle voice, and they're doing that because it's easier forms. So here you have luo. Lu is your stem from luo, to loosen. You have this thematic vowel, which you're going to pay attention to. That's going to change in future things. But you've got this thematic vowel, for the present middle tense. This participle builder, men, that's actually the middle participle builder, so that's how we know it's middle here. Lu, men, and then you have your noun endings. And like most of the adjectives you learned, like basically all of them except for tis, this is a 2-1-2 adjective. All present middle participles will be 2-1-2 adjectives, which means the masculine here are second declension, as, u, o, on, etc. And the feminine are first declension feminines, a, ace, a, ain. Good? So these are exactly what you'd expect of a 2-1-2 adjective, just instead of having a noun stem, it has, or another adjective stem, it has a verb stem. It's built off of luo. Before that, they gave you a bunch of use cases, and they're giving you these. These are helpful. I don't know that you need to memorize these. You should look over these use cases. These are ways they use the participle, and they will use the participle more than English does in slightly more expansive ways, and they'll sometimes use it in ways that we don't really use adjectives, in sort of like adverbial ways that I would say are sort of actually closer to like a sort of sentence governing adverb. So look at these. But remember, these are all adjectives, so they're all still going to be doing adjective things. So in the sentence, the slave following his master carries the plow. This sentence is ha doulos, the slave carries the plow. That's the main sentence. That's the subject, the verb, and the object. But there's a participle throwing in here telling you some more information about the slave, which is what adjectives do, right? We could have it be the happy slave, the unhappy slave, the miserable slave, right? Instead of being one of those adjectives, it is a verbal adjective. Instead of being happy or miserable, we have a verbal adjective from the verb to follow, epimenos. And look, this verbal adjective matches the noun it's modifying in case, gender, and number, like every other adjective we've learned. So we have a masculine singular nominative, doulos. We have a masculine singular nominative, epimenos. So what kind of slave is this? What information do we learn about the slave? It is a following slave. The following the master slave carries the plow, is really what this says. Except that is in English. So we say something like the slave who is following the master. It's fudging it. You should probably avoid who if you can. But sometimes it's necessary. But the slave following his master, that is the master following slave, carries the plow. And because it's a verbal adjective, because the participle is a verbal adjective, epomenos, it can take dative, accusative, other genitive is for noun stuff, so it can take other nouns. So here, epomenos is governing to despotai. It is following the master, which means we get this whole adjectival phrase, all of which is embedded in the doulos. So the slave, the following the master slave, is carrying the plow. Okay. Similarly here, they see the grandfather, and the grandfather is accusative singular here. The participle here is working, right? They see the working in the garden grandfather, is what this says. The grandfather, Papon, he's ergodzamenon, he is working. So you can do this sort of while as translation, and that's a good way to translate it in English, but there's no word for while and as, because ergodzamenon is just an adjective telling you more information about the grandfather. Go through all of these and just look for that. Look for how it's acting like a normal adjective, what kind of adjective it's acting like. This one right here is my least favorite. It is what it really is saying is that it's the slave, what slave? The working slave, the slave who is working, upautai, does not stop. So the working slave does not stop. It's true that they'll use that sometimes in ways that we would use a different construction. We would say that it does not stop working. That feels more like an infinitive construction, which we've seen. You can use infinitive to supplement the meanings of verbs, but they'll sometimes use participles sort of that way. The thing that's important to know about the slave is that he's working and he doesn't stop, so we assume what he's not stopping to do is working. Everything else in this chapter, so there's no new forms here except for the amen infix, right, between the noun ending and the verbal stem. You get this amen infix, but if you can memorize amen as an infix, you've got all the other forms you already know. Beyond that, they give you some new, let's see, where is it? They give you this new third declension consonants ending in an R. Look over these, but this is just a new way of a few tiny little spelling weirdnesses, in a couple of regular third declensions, but they act like third declensions. Weird nominative. The rest of the forms are built off the genitive, so it's not really that irregular. It's just kind of third declension. And then you get the numbers, which are here at the end of the chapter. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Great. Good luck.